Uniformed personnel, attention! Halt. Ready. Leg. All uniformed personnel, present, armed. Order! On!
All uniformed personnel at ease. Will you please join me in a moment of silence for those who lost their lives on September 11th, 2001. Thank you. Good morning, and thank you guys for attending this this annual commemoration that we do on 9/11. Today serves as the 20th anniversary of that tragic event. As I was preparing for my speech, I started off with the number 20. Anniversaries always have that special connotation to them, right? Hey, they made it 5 years, 10, 25, 50 if you're lucky. This isn't one of those celebrations though. So I was thinking to myself, what's so important about the number 20? And in all honesty, at first all I could come up with was nothing. It's not any more important than 18. It's not any more important than 7. It's not any more important than 2. And it's not going to be any more important than 21 next year. And the reason for that is because what we were here doing today is we're honoring our solemn vow. And that solemn vow is to never forget. To never forget what happened that day. To never forget how the atrocities that happened, and to never forget how we as a nation united. So again, I say that the important part of that is to never forget. Never forget the cowardly terrorist acts that killed thousands of innocent people. Never forget the 2 planes that were hijacked by Al-Qaeda that pierced the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center. The plane that slammed into the Pentagon, and the plane that crashed in Somerset County, Pennsylvania, missing its target because of the courageous efforts of ordinary citizens aboard that plane. Never forget that sinking feeling of helplessness, disbelief, sadness, confusion, anger, and all other raw emotions we collectively shared as a nation. Never forget the nearly 3,000 total deaths, including 343 firefighters, 71 police officers, and 8 EMTs and paramedics. Never forget those who bravely responded to and survived Ground Zero, only to succumb to 9/11 related illnesses years later. Never forget how our nation rose together as one in support of each other to fight against those who invaded our homeland. Members from every ethnicity, color, background, all rose together against a common enemy. We were all Americans, and we are all Americans. Never forget the resiliency and love that our citizens had for each other and the nation as a whole. The enemy incorrectly believed that they could break us, only to realize they merely united and woke a sleeping giant. Never forget our response. Never forget the families that lost their loved ones and were left to realize a new reality. A reality without mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, sisters, and brothers. Never forget to teach our younger generation the atrocities that brought us together as a nation that day. Help mold them, help raise them, help them understand that our nation is capable to unite as one, not just during bad times, but also during good times. Teach them to preserve our common goal in both good and bad times. That common goal is freedom. And never forget that freedom is never free. So now if you ask me what the significance of 20 is, my reply is simply this. It is another year that our nation remembers and honors those that paid the ultimate sacrifice in the service, the unselfish service to others. It is another year that we remember the heroism of normal, everyday citizens like those on Flight 93. It's another year that we remember our common purpose of combating evil, and there is evil in this world. But most importantly, at least to me, it is the keeping of our solemn vow to never forget. A vow that has been entrusted to my brothers and sisters across our great nation to keep. We have honored that vow every year, and we will continue to honor that vow in future years to come. To our department members, thank you for the time you spent getting ready for today. Thank you for keeping our promise to never forget. To our brothers and sisters in public safety in attendance here today, thank you. To our citizens and our elected officials that are here today, thank you. Your attendance here today shows your commitment to ensuring our nation remembers the events that occurred this day 20 years ago. To those who could not make it here today but continue to hold fast to that promise to never forget, thank you. And to those throughout our nation that ensure our younger generation understands the importance to never forget the events of September 11, 2001. Thank you. Please, never forget. That being said, I would like to now introduce our guest speaker, Marie Mitchell, sister to Paul Mitchell, aka Big Daddy, who lost his life during the 9/11 attacks. Marie?
Wow. Thank you everyone for being here. I can't tell you enough what it does mean. The promise to never forget is something that I think early on we all took deep into our hearts as Americans, as family members, as first responders, as people around the world. And as time goes on, I think it's more and more important, as was just so beautifully stated, to really deepen in what that means. It's not just about memory, it's about taking to heart what something of the magnitude of a September 11th is in our world, in our lives as Americans, as world citizens, because it affected our country so deeply, but over 90 countries lost citizens that day as well. So in fact, we the people became we the global community. And in that there's a shared grief, but also a shared responsibility to become better human beings in every possible way that we can. And I think that a ceremony like today in Chico, California, reflects just that spirit of America and that spirit of heart that is really so important in our world. My brother, Lieutenant Paul Mitchell, Big Daddy, 6'4", 250 pounds of muscle, went back in that day. He was on his way home, and we figure he saw at least one, if not two, of the planes hitting the building. Went back into his old firehouse at the foot of the Brooklyn Bridge, grabbed some gear, and went back in. And over the years, the last 20 years, from the personal impact that had to lose my baby brother, to hearing just in that one story of that one person, how many lives he touched, both while he was alive and in the subsequent years, of people hearing his story or remembering their stories. And I think that's an important part of this year. There's so much information now, so many brilliant documentaries, so much wonderful historical material. You can all get online and read about just about anybody that was affected. You can read about the ongoing aftermath. But the important story that I'd like to emphasize today, as someone that has a very personal connection with the events of that day, is your own story. How did 9/11 affect you? Where were you? How many phone calls away were you from someone that lost someone that day, or was there, or was on a plane that didn't go down but got caught in Newfoundland, or the airspace that closed over Alaska and sled teams were bringing insulin to people in the outback? How many people got stuck in airports around our country and around the world? And what did that do inside of us? What did that do inside of us to have to face at a deeper and deeper level the immensity of the importance of life and the reality that there is an evil force in this world, and that we do need to rise within ourselves from our own experience to meet that darkness with our light? And how do we discover that light but to get clearer and clearer in who we are in relationship to the death of my baby brother, the death of your friends and colleagues, our wonderful cadets, God bless them all, who are here today, and good to see some women going forward, carrying the legacy of a story that they maybe weren't even born to know about, but can feel the spirit of the remembrance, can feel the spirit of our care, and care enough about us and our community to want to embody those qualities that we so admire and so embodied ourselves right around September 11th. So my brother, I think, would be the first one to say, he's not the important one. No single person is. And while we grieve our single connections with that day, our single losses, our individual grief, as human beings, we also share a collective heart and a collective. I think he'd say, hey, carry on, folks. Let's do this. Or as Todd Beamer say, let's roll into the future. Let's go forward into the future from this day, this point of remembrance, this point of connection, and this point of celebration of the lives of our fellow Americans who did not stand down that day, who showed up in large and small ways, whether it was at the site itself, digging endlessly, or contributing in their communities in some way around the country and around the globe. People that continue to carry on what we most care about as Americans and as human beings. So I honor my brother. I love him dearly. I'm so glad to be Big Daddy's big sister. And I just thank you all for being here today with everything that's going on in our communities, North State and the world, that everybody's here today, and the people that are watching from wherever. Thank you so much for keeping this day in your hearts, because it belongs to all of us, and it should inspire all of us today and for future generations to come. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
71 police officers and 8 EMT paramedics who made the supreme sacrifice trying to save and protect the lives of those in peril. In truth, I can't add much more than what Chief Zinko and Marie have already eloquently stated, and it's a hard act to follow. What I will add is that this site is a testament to the sacrifices of your local responders, to include your own Chico firefighters, Cal firefighters, our Chico PD, our Sheriff's Department, our Beauty MS responders, paramedics and EMTs, who every day when they come to work are dedicating themselves to protecting and serving our community to make it a better and a safer place. They do so because they are united in a common cause. But like members of our own community, they have differing beliefs, views, and ideologies. And trust me when I tell you, there are robust discussions about a myriad of topics that occur daily inside every firehouse at the kitchen table. But when the tones go off to respond to your emergency, they put aside their differences and unite to help our community members in their greatest times of need. They do so selflessly and without hesitation, often putting themselves in harm's way, like those responders did in New York, Washington, D.C., and outside Shanksville, Pennsylvania. I hope that today we can all leave here and reflect upon the idea that we have more in common that bind us together than to tear us apart, and that this very site and this very day represents the best in all of us. Thank you again for participating here in person. Those of you who are watching online, it means a lot to all of us. Right now, Captain Hart will conduct the bell ceremony, and upon dismissing all personnel, that will conclude our ceremony. We invite you to stay and look at this beautiful memorial and keep those thoughts in mind that we just talked about. Thank you again, and God bless.
Fire service traditions are closely tied to the familiar fire bell. The fire bell was rung, signaling all firefighters to return to their stations and respond to whatever emergency awaited. They fought fires, they saved lives, and they restored calm from chaos. And when the emergency was over, the fire bell was rung 3 times slowly, letting citizens know that all is well. Today we honor those who lost their lives September 11, 2001. Your job is completed, your tasks are over, all is well.
Uniformed personnel, dismissed.